Hi everyone, I am Nikki Hinkle. I'm a Diamond Ambassador with Lexus, and I wanted to first tell y'all a little why I chose the topic I want to talk to y'all about today. So yesterday, Super Saturday, shareables came out, and my face was kind of plastered on the cover of one of them, and I'm not super comfortable with seeing myself places, so I was like, oh, whoa. But then the quote next to it I loved. It said, "Oh, darling, you are more than enough." And I've been kind of thinking the past, few days, what I'm going to talk with y'all over. And scarcity was one of the topics I kind of was playing around with. And so when I saw that quote next to my face, I thought, okay, it's definitely what I need to go with today. So I'm going to talk to y'all today about scarcity and about feeling like you are enough. So I want to start by reading this quote to you first. It's by Lynn Twist. It says, "For me and for many of us, our first waking thought of the day is, I didn't get enough sleep. The next one is, I didn't have enough time." Whether true or not, that thought of not enough occurs to us automatically before we even think to question or examine it. We spend most of the hours and days of our lives hearing, explaining, complaining, or worrying about what we don't have enough of. Before we even sit up in bed, before our feet touch the floor, we're already inadequate, already behind, already losing, already lacking something. And by the time we go to bed at night, our minds are racing with a litany of what we didn't get or didn't get done that day. We go to sleep burdened by those thoughts and wake up to that feeling of lack. This internal condition of scarcity, this mindset of scarcity, lives at the very heart of our jealousies, our greed, our prejudice, and our arguments with life. Now, how many of you have had that feeling of, I'm not enough? Like, so tired, I didn't get enough sleep last night. I didn't eat a good enough breakfast. I don't have enough energy today. Like, how many of us speak these words over ourselves constantly throughout the day, whether it be, just something within your day, or maybe it's something more that defines you. I'm not a good enough speaker. I don't have a big enough presence on social media. I'm not good enough with numbers. These feelings of scarcity are feelings that can kind of keep us from moving forward in our business. So I want to talk to y'all today about 3 ways we tend to kind of manifest those feelings of scarcity, and how we can stop that dead in its tracks, and so that you can feel equipped to feel like you're enough to be successful in this business. So the 3 ways that scarcity kind of reveals itself in our lives are through shame, comparison, and disengagement. And first is shame. So shame is kind of that awful feeling of unworthiness when someone or something makes you feel like you're not good enough. And the first and most important thing to be resilient against shame is to be able to recognize that emotion when you're in it and to kind of call it out for what it is. So I want you to think right now about a moment in the past when you felt extreme shame, and maybe you have a common trigger. So maybe it's something that you often feel when this certain thing happens. So I want you to, if you know the common trigger, write that down too. But I want you to write down what exactly you feel like when you're in shame. Do you get does your heart race? Do you get flushed? Do you just feel embarrassed? Do you want to hide? Do you get sick to your stomach? I feel like we all kind of have some similar but different reactions to being in shame. But I want you to be able to kind of really identify that feeling so that the next time you're there, you're able to call it out for what it is. Because shame loves secrecy. So it is going to grow. The more that you hide it and keep it in the dark, the more you're going to feel shame. So if you're able to recognize it, though, and kind of call it out for the BS that it is, that's what's going to help you be resilient to shame. So shame is going to try to tell you that you're the only one with this weakness. You're the worst one with this weakness. You're broken somehow, like you're not good enough somehow. But when we can really recognize and call out those lies, because I can promise you, no one on this earth has no weaknesses, and there is no weakness that you alone struggle with or that you are the worst at. So reminding yourself of that and remembering that okay, I'm not alone in this struggle. I'm not the only person that has a hard time with this. I'm not the only person that that struggles with this certain area. And once you realize that, and realize that your weakness is what makes you human, because all humans have them, it's easier to step out of that shame. Once we're able to be self-aware, identify the shame, call it for the BS that it is, and step out of it. So we want to be able to step out of that negative shame talk. Now, our second reaction to scarcity is comparison. And I feel like this is one of the biggest ways that it kind of manifests in our business, because everywhere we look in Plexus, there is somebody doing what we're doing even better. There's some really amazing, successful people in this industry. And if you get to where you feel like you're doing the best, instantly someone's going to beat you. So it's one of those things that, you know, you can only stay at the very high for so long before somebody else comes up and does it better than you. And that can be, it can be hard not to let that come in and really affect you and tell you that, look at this person, they're doing it better than you. Why can't you be them? And I see this a lot with people, with letting that comparison just pretty much eat them alive. And I could tell you, though, I could tell you all day that comparison is the thief of joy. It's the thief of love and belonging. It's the thief of creativity, of connection, of success. It's a thief of pretty much everything. And I can tell you that till I'm blue in the face, but it's not going to help you actually stop that comparison trap. So I want to talk to you about one very important way to be able to step outside of comparison. And that is knowing your strengths. So I really, really challenge you to kind of dig deep into knowing what you are good at. Take a Strengths Finder test. I love the Strengths Finder 2.0. If you haven't taken that, I mean, I believe there is a fee associated with that one. So if you want a free one, you can just Google free strength test, take personality tests. That can kind of really reveal also a little bit about yourself. If you're new to this, it can feel uncomfortable at first, because I'll tell you, I told myself the lie for years and years and years that I am mediocre at a whole lot of things. I truly believe that about myself for most of my life. And that is a lie that Satan wants us to believe so that he can keep us from fully succeeding at what we're meant to succeed at. So I want you to really find out what your strengths are and really believe that you're good at these things. And I want you to remember, if this is new and uncomfortable for you, like actually believing that you have strengths and figuring out what those are, a Strength Finder test is a good way to start, but one test is not going to reveal the whole picture to you. So just remember that. Like, you might not agree with the test, and that's okay. It might take some time getting really curious and getting to know yourself better. Ask your friends and the people who love you the most and know you the most, ask them what you're good at. And a lot of times, if you look at kind of what your weaknesses are, it can kind of also reveal your strengths. They tend to kind of be on the same spectrum a lot of times. Like, I can be a very hot mess, but I can also be very creative. So those two go very much hand in hand. So sometimes kind of, you know, realizing they can kind of go along with each other. Without our weaknesses, we wouldn't have our strengths. And it kind of shows the beauty in that. And once you're able to kind of figure out a few things that you feel like you are your strengths, write them down. And now, when you see somebody doing something amazing in Plexus, amazing in life, anything that you feel the urge to compare, remember what you're good at. Think about how awesome you are. And feel free to tell yourself, I'm great at math. I really am good at numbers. And me saying that, it's not conceited. I don't want you to feel conceit when you say that, because I'm not saying I'm the only one good at math. I'm the best at math. Like, that's conceited. But to say I have a real strength in math, that's really being able to bring something to the table. Now I can show up to my team and I can help people analyze their numbers, because that's what I'm good at. And so once you know that, you're able to bring something to the table instead of, you know, feeling like you're not enough. So this will also help you to rejoice in other strengths. Like when you see that, you're able to hone in on what you're good at. You're able to stop trying to be good at the things that you're not meant to be good at and rejoice in other ones that are. Like I love when I find somebody who's good at something that I'm not good at and we can work together. Like that's such a beautiful thing when you can find that. So it's going to really help you with that comparison trap. Find your strengths. And anytime I said that comparison trap starts to creep back in, I would go back to, don't just go back to that strengths and look at it. Practice your strengths. Remember that God gave us these strengths, but they're not just magic. Like you actually have to practice them to improve upon them. So start practicing your strengths, start putting them to use, and that's going to help you with that comparison. And then the last one is disengagement. And this can be scary to me when I see my team start to check out and become disengaged, because that's a sign to me that they stopped feeling like they belonged. And the best way to combat disengagement is by letting people feel heard and like they are important and part of the group. So people want to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And they want to feel like they have something to bring to that table. So if you start seeing people in your team start to check out and disengage, find those strengths in them and find a way to plug them in with your team and your group that makes them feel valued. When they have something to say to you, listen to what they have to say. Let them feel heard. This is so important that everybody feels like it's not just you leading the team and then following along. We're all learning to be leaders together in this. And we all are wanting to bring something to the table to feel valuable and to feel like we have something to offer. So make sure if you're starting to feel disengaged, really connect in with what your strengths are and kind of show up with your business with these strengths and see how that makes you feel versus trying to follow along something that you've been doing that doesn't feel like it's working within your strengths. Kind of mix it up and try to work within your strengths and just see how that makes you feel instead. So to recap, our goal here is to stop feeling that sense of scarcity, that you're not good enough to be diamond, because it's a lie. These are not truths. Call them out for their not truths. Shame, comparison, and disengagement is how we typically respond to the scarcity. So I challenge you to use these tools to stop those three things right in their tracks. And I want you to remember more than anything, oh darling, you are more than enough. Thank you.